So I quit my job as a plumber August of 2021 and got my real estate license. I had about 20 grand in the bank, but I had a pretty big line of credit. It's about $80,000 line of credit, right? And at that time, the market was actually dead in August. If people remember, if you're in my market, right? This was, basically Vancouver, summer in Vancouver of 2021 wasn't a busy market. But what followed was potentially the busiest market ever, right? So basically from September until May of 2022 was the peak of sales. It was also the peak of prices, and there was pretty much no inventory, right? So, and a lot of people almost like, I guess, envy realtors at that time, but what I'll tell you is it wasn't really an enjoyable market. Like, you went to an open house, there was 80 pairs of shoes at the door. It was almost pointless going to an open house because you had to convince your client to write 400 grand over ask with no subjects in your offer, and you were competing against 12 other offers, 13 other offers. And you know what ended up happening is the clients wouldn't believe you that that's what you had to do to win. So you would end up writing 3 or 4 offers before your clients came to terms that, okay, if we want to win, we have to pay the most. That's the only way you win, right? So, you'd end up taking every client out to, writing 5 or 6 offers, and then a lot of them would just end up giving up because by that time the prices had risen $150K since they started, or $80,000 since they started, or $100,000 since they started. So it wasn't an enjoyable market at all. But I had made, actually my partner at that time had some good relationships with a couple developers, and we ended up getting first access to a couple pre-sale projects, new construction, all right? So during that time period, because it was almost a waste of time to try to sell resale property that was already built and existing, I went into pre-sale. So my first sale was actually my girlfriend's dad's place. I got that handed to me on a silver platter, and ended up selling that in a week, like 200 grand over ask. And then he bought a townhome, which we had to pay over ask for in multiple offers. Almost ran out of time finding him that townhome, so that was very stressful. But we had first access to these new construction pre-sale centers. So I started leaning into that. And then the very first one that we had first access to, now I had never sold one of these, I had never bought one of these, but I knew people who had bought them, who had done really well on them. So we had first access. I was posting a lot of TikTok videos at this time, but hadn't seen any success from it. People were starting to call me. I was starting to get engagement. People were texting me, but I hadn't sold any property from it yet. So I go there and I shoot a video. I bring the team videographer. I was on a team at the time. I bring the team videographer, and we shot a video. It didn't go viral, but it got like 15,000 views because the market was so good and everybody was so sick of losing out on multiple offers and all these types of things. I ended up booking 7 appointments off of this video. I brought all 7 people to the sales center, ended up selling 4 of them. So that was 4 deals in an afternoon, and I think I made about $30,000, which was, roughly 4 months of income back when I was a plumber in, an hour and a half. So that's when I really started leaning into new construction as well as more videos. I upped the amount of videos that I was putting out. I started a YouTube channel. I started a podcast, started posting more on my Instagram. And then what followed for the remainder of that time period was I ended up selling like 45 houses in like the next 6 or 7 months. Like there were pre-sales that I went into and sold 7 units in an hour and a half, right? Now today, the picture is much different. And I had, splits and stuff on top of that. I was on like a 50-50 split, and then eventually I got it down to 70-30 splits. So I didn't make all that money myself, right? Now I was very lucky that I stumbled across new construction property because although sales were very hot, there were a lot of realtors struggling at that time, contrary to popular belief, because they couldn't get their clients to pay $400,000 over ask for like a piece of shit house built in the 50s, right? And, essentially if you're a realtor, it's the same thing as the market crashing. The only difference is prices are going up. they're not going down, right? Like in a market crash, you have, an oversupply of sellers and no buyers. Well, in that market, you have an oversupply of buyers and no sellers. So for a realtor, it's the exact same thing as a complete market meltdown. So 2022 comes around, the market literally fell like 30% in like 3 months, 4 months. Started in February of 2022, went down like 30% over the course of the next 4 months. And during this time period, I had a transaction that I did off market. I managed to do an off market deal. And basically my clients bought this house with an assignment clause in the contract. They were going to try to flip it. So we just put down a deposit and they were going to try to flip it, which I advise against, but he likes to gamble, right? And we had a 6-month completion date on it. So he put down $100,000 deposit, 6-month completion date, bought it for 1.4. I ended up assigning it, finding a buyer off market. We assigned it for 1.55 million. So he made 150 grand. However, about 3 weeks before completion, the buyer informs us, the buyer of the assignment informs us that he can't complete. So the way assignments work is when the assignee can't complete, the onus to complete goes back to the original buyer. So now my people had to complete unless this guy could find a way to complete. So for 3 months, we're getting extensions. We're giving this guy time to complete. He's trying to figure it out. He can't figure it out. He can't complete. So now my clients are freaking out. They start getting very accusatory, blaming me. Even though I made them $150,000, it's my fault that the buyer can't complete, right? And this was an extremely stressful time. I didn't sleep very much for like 3 months while all of this went on forever. This was like half of 2022 I'm dealing with this transaction, right? And this was my first introduction into like the real stresses of being a real estate agent, right? And I had the same thing happen one more time, because when a market tanks that fast, you have appraisal issues. Appraisals stop coming out when a market goes down 30% in like 2-3 months, right? So that was very stressful. And going into 2022, the back end of 2022, I basically sold nothing. The market was completely frozen. Sales transactions were ridiculously low. Come 2023, spring was a really good year. I sold like, again, 40 houses in, 4 or 5 months in the spring market. And the back end of 2023, again, market was completely frozen. Terrible market. Fixed rates went to like 7%. And then 2023 passes, come into 2024, the year that just passed. This year was honestly a brutal year. I sold as many homes as I did in 2023, but it was a grind and a half. I think the interesting thing about being a real estate agent, before you get your license, you think your clients are going to listen to you, right? You think they want your opinion. And what you find out very soon after becoming a realtor is that people don't want your opinion. They just want their own opinion validated. And the irony of that situation is that people are willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars to hire a realtor and then listen to nothing that they say. So I had listed close to 100 houses in 2024. And I sold like 10 of them, like none of them. Because at that time, prices were lower. Everybody wanted to get rid of these properties. Nobody's willing to lose money. Nobody was listening to me on the price that I think they should list at. And prices pretty much went down all of 2024. So all the sellers were just chasing it the whole way down. And then, everyone's firing their realtors, hiring new realtors. That realtor doesn't get it done. They fire that one. They hire a new one. So, I pretty much paid for all the money I made on those listings covers all of the expenses that I had to pay to take on those listings. So I didn't even make any money on those listings out here in Abbotsford. Just walking by the stream right now. But luckily, in 2024, I was able to sell a lot of property on the buyer side. So commissions were a lot higher because when the market's slower and there's not as much sales activity, developers will typically pay a higher commission to have their properties sold. So volume-wise, this year sucked. Commissions wise, it was actually better than 2023. Now, keep in mind, through the last 3 years, I've really only had money in the bank where I felt comfortable for maybe 5 months. Otherwise, I'm pretty much always broke, despite the fact that I'm making about $400,000 a year, almost every year. You're broke. You're broke all the time in this industry somehow. I don't know how it happens, but you're always broke. And if there's one piece of advice that I can say to realtors, because this comes up so much, and one thing that I guess contributes to the success that I've seen is that when I have an idea, I just do it. I execute on the idea. And then if it doesn't work, I know to not do that. And if it does work, then I do more of that. And I can't tell you how often realtors ask me like, hey, I've got this idea for a video. Do you think I should do this? I'm like, I don't know. Fucking do it. And then you'll know. You know what I mean? Go shoot the video. You'll get feedback whether or not it works. And then if it works, keep doing it, right? I'm not you. I can only tell you what works for me. And then you can take advice from, some of the things that I do. But ultimately, what works for you is going to be different than what works for me. So if you have an idea, something you want to do, just do it. And then use the feedback to tell you what you need to do in the future, right? Like the amount of people that book calls with me about coaching, and my cheapest option is like $500. And they'll book a call with me to talk about it for like 20, 30 minutes. And they're like, yeah, I'm down. I want to do this. And then they don't send the payment. And then they just ghost. It's like, dude, the amount of things that you're going to learn about what to do and what not to do from spending that $500 is going to do you so much better than just doing nothing, than saving your $500. And this goes for any coaching or any idea, or should I go to this convention, or should I buy this coaching, or should I shoot this video, or should I maybe do that open house, or should I try door knocking with this flyer, or should I maybe try running an ad like this? Just do it. Success is subtractive. Success isn't about knowing what to do. It's about, by process of elimination, knowing what not to do. And by process of elimination, not doing certain things and only doing some things. Right? So the more shit you do, the more you know what not to do, right? If you just eliminate all of the things that suck, the only things left are the things that don't suck. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear about my coaching, I have a link down in the description. Peace.